So, let's see. There are 6 titles I watched over this week. So let's see if I can remember all of those. For starters, I mentioned High School of the Dead, starting to watch it and really liking that it was an actual zombie apocalypse. I watched all of it, and Friday had friends over, and I watched all of it again, so I've gotten a chance to see it twice. And I have to say, I really like it and really appreciate it. I think it's a very valuable contribution to the zombie apocalypse genre in general. It is true that the fan service is in there and absurd, but the interesting thing is it's not really any more absurd than the action, and it's pretty stereotypical zombie apocalypse action in the first place. Well, at the same time, the fan service isn't something that's totally unexpected from anime, so overall, that including the setting, which basically allows us to see the zombie apocalypse as it's unfolding from the point of view of somebody who didn't see Patient Zero or a paramilitary organization or something like that, but rather from people who are rather more normal people, flawed humans, blah blah blah, etc. Um, Basically, it just feels like a really fresh and new perspective on a genre without going strange ways with it. Like, there's one thing I think that can be agreed upon about Twilight. Even if you're a fan of the romantic aspect of it, the concept of the vampire was probably messed with a bit in that one, to the point where you can really make fun of it. Whereas the zombies in High School of the Dead, they're very zombie-ish. It's like sometimes you can remember how vampires are portrayed in anime, and then you can appreciate when they're treated like actual vampires in the rare anime. And the zombies are just rare in anime, and I'm pretty sure there's actually a couple of zombie anime that are more like your stereotypical harem instead of a zombie apocalypse, but here we have a legitimate zombie apocalypse, and it feels like the characters are really dealing with it in a society collapsing, and they have to somehow survive this sort of way. So, High School of the Dead. I actually have a really good opinion of it. Now, I'm not necessarily sure if that means that it is the best anime ever, but let's just say that when I visited Best Buy, I considered peeking around for the Blu-ray, but I've also done that for like the rebuild of Evangelion movies. Maybe something else, but I can't remember what. Yeah. Anyway, let's see. High School of the Dead. After that, I watched Dragon Ball Z Kai Part 5. It's pretty good. It's going through right now. Well, I guess the first thing I'm glad I didn't notice is I didn't notice the Garlic Jr. saga skipped. And what I mean is it didn't feel like an unnatural transition or anything like that. It just wasn't there anymore. Which I'm kind of glad. I always thought the Garlic Jr. saga was stupid, to put it lightly. Boring, to put it more accurate. Because there's kind of some stupids that are kind of okay and fine to deal with. Or sometimes they're amusing, like the idea of Goku and Piccolo learning to drive a car, which of course had to be cut from Kai, but I expected that too. Anyways, it starts jumping into the Android saga, and it's really difficult to tell if it's necessarily faster, because the Android saga felt so much smoother, faster, better told, cooler after Garlic Jr., but I don't know how many episodes long that was versus how long this one is. It doesn't feel unreasonable though, and it's actually quite interesting because, well, I mean that's what I thought about the Android saga first as well. The real test of Dragon Ball Z Kai will actually be the Cell games, where once again they look for an excuse to have things drawn out and not much happening. So that would be interesting to see, because I remember being annoyed by that, but that didn't happen in this part, and it's well, I don't know how far it's going to get into it in the next part, but I guess it has to start getting into it, considering the Boo saga is ridiculously long. they probably have a lot of material to cover there. That one could be the one that's probably most improved by the DBZ Kai stuff. But that's probably like a long ways away from now. Anyways, I'm still enjoying watching it. It does not have that super awesome feeling of like the first two DBZ Kai parts. But a lot of that is that the Frieza Saga slowed things down, and then of course the Android Saga starts picking things up again, I think. Now let's see. After Dragon Ball Z Kai, I guess I watched Rideback. It was an intriguing show. The thing about it that didn't quite rub off on me right was I wasn't quite sure what I was supposed to be thinking about it at any one time. Because it kind of begins as a different kind of stereotype and then starts leaning into the one it, I think, actually wanted to be, but then kind of meandering around and not really doing anything until the end of the series. And then we kind of understand a little bit what's going on. Maybe? I don't know. Somebody said it was rushed, but I don't know. It felt like it. Yeah, I don't know. It was strange. The basic premise of Ride Back is that people ride in. They ride these machines that are called ride backs because in their robot forms it kind of looks like and feels like they're riding on somebody's back. But they can transform into motorcycles, etc., etc. Our main character is a ballerina who injured her foot and stopped being a ballerina. She was really, really, really good at it, and freak accident later, and people discover that she may have some hidden talent with being really good at riding ride backs. And then there's a lot of, I would say political, but it's more like military political stuff going on that's somehow involved with all of it. Alright, let's see, that's 3. I watched the first 6 episodes of Katanagatari. Now, I was really surprised when I looked at it and realized there were only 6 episodes. I was wondering if maybe that was something NAIS was doing since it was a combination DVD Blu-ray release. And it took me a while to realize that the episodes were 50 minutes long. Which basically means that it is a 2-set release like most of the other things NIS has released. It just took me a long time to realize that. Kind of funny story there, I guess. So I watched the first 6 episodes that have come out, and it was actually very interesting. Although, kind of a strange experience. It's rated really highly on NADB, and I'm not entirely sure why. But at the same time, I can't think of any reason why not. Basically, the most noteworthy thing I found starting to watch it is that it is very dialogue heavy. Now, it's not like narrator explaining the politics of a situation, sort of. It's more like a couple characters talking a lot. Usually the main 2 characters. And the basic premise is that he's a successor to a sword style that involves not using swords, and she's a representative of the shogunate, and she enlists his help to find 12 special katanas. Or at least enlisting is kind of, it's a weird way of putting it, but really, the dialogue between the 2 of them is, I thought it was quite amusing, and it's really a key part of enjoying it, and it's something where telling you what enlisting means, or even trying to accurately describe her title, or the politics of everything, etc. It's really confusing, but it doesn't feel like some of those details are as important as, like, I guess I can't think of a good example off the top of my head. But the basic idea is you got 12 episodes, you got 12 swords, so okay, that seems pretty straightforward. Looks like they get 1 sword per episode, so each one is about each of those. lot of the entertainment comes from the fact that he has been living on an island and has not seen other people other than his sister pretty much his entire life. Whereas she has sealed off her emotions because of childhood trauma and doesn't. She expresses a lot of things absurdly and rather matter of factly that don't feel like they should be, I guess. So the basic idea is. I'm wondering if they describe it that way. I don't want to say that. But I guess he doesn't really understand the concept of interacting with other people, caring about things outside his normal world, etc. And she doesn't really care enough to do anything except being practical in a lot of situations, in her own very bizarre way of being practical at times. But it all works together quite amusingly, and it's something to give a try. But I think it's fair to warn that it's very dialogue heavy. And since it's subtitled only, the DVD release here is subtitled only, and if you downloaded it, then obviously it was subtitled. You probably should not be doing anything at all other than watching it. I know I'm a big fan of doing two things at once, but Katanagatari, you should sit down and expect to be doing a lot of reading. And hopefully you're like me and you can actually enjoy the way they say things. I can't think of another way to describe that. Oh well, okay, let's see. And now it's easy. The two other things I watched are the things I watched today, actually. First of all, the DVDs I showed in my DVD collection update, I opened those as soon as they arrived. I can explain why I was able to do that later. Or rather, I explained that in the previous video. Okay. But I wanted to get those done out of the way, ripped on the server, because I wanted to watch K-On! Volume 2. Amusing. The basic idea of K-On! Is our main character is going to high school and chooses her first high school club, which is the light music band, and they form a band and start playing. And that's what the series appears to be about. That's what it appears to be about thus far. I don't expect it to really change, since it's form of humor and storytelling. The amusingness comes from a lot of the straightforwardness of the way situations are presented, even if the characters themselves are doing their own little amusing quirks here and there. And K-On! Volume 2 was amusing to watch. Watching it, I could again remember why I enjoyed watching K-On! Volume 1, even if I couldn't remember what happened at the time. Normally I have to remember after I put the next disc in, or rewatch a little bit from a previous disc to remember. Then, the thing I watched, the thing that actually pushed the anime DVD collection update so late into the night, is, I watched, The Girl Who Leapt Through Space, Volume 2. And it's a lot like Volume 1, except of course Volume 1 had that opening that like introduced things ridiculously fast, but in a kind of linear order, characters and ideas in a sort of linear order, so that I think it's easier to pick up everything they're trying to introduce. Except for a couple of things that don't even necessarily need to be relevant at that point. Volume 2 didn't have that, of course, because it's already in the middle of the series. But it did continue on with the other thing about The Girl Who Leapt Through Space that I considered quite enjoyable, and that's, let me see, the occasional quirk, that the thing you just don't expect. It keeps trying these little things here and there. The overall story has been unfolding in a way that I have completely been unable to guess that was going to happen, that was, etc., etc. So it was a real enjoyable watch. Ending Volume 2, I really want to see Volume 3. But of course I have to wait. But that's okay. That's the reality of watching DVDs. Let's see. So I guess that's all of the anime I watched this past week. I hope. And yeah, I guess so. So this next week I should be able to. Well, I'd like to say I should be able to, but the truth is I may be able to watch a bit more than usual because I'll be working from home so much this week. Which, I'd like to have something on in the background while doing stuff. And today was actually a really good experiment in verifying that I could watch some anime while still being fairly productive with work-related stuff that I'm doing from home. So yeah, I'll probably give it a shot, but maybe I tire of it and end up not doing anything over the weekend and going through some quiet, blah blah blah. But it's still a mystery, but we'll see what I'll have watched by the end of or by next week.